Hi guys, and welcome to another video. Today, I'm going to be driving from Pecket Well to Ponden Mill. So we're currently on the A6033, which we're going to be riding on right up until we reach the village of Oxenhope. And at that point we're onto some little narrow country lanes onto Ponden Mill. Ponden Mill is a little campsite in the grounds of, as the name suggests, an old mill building. So this is going to be my first attempt at motorcycle camping. Luna, which is the name I gave my NMAX 125, very heavily loaded up with my camping gear. I had to switch out the sleeping bag I was bringing with me just because it was making me sit so far forward in the seat it just felt unsafe. So I had to go down to a single season. Turned out totally fine. It's been a really warm sort of bank holiday weekend, so it's not been a problem. It was a little bit of a concern. What I've realised is I probably need to get some panniers or something, because there's only so much stuff you can stack behind you or have in your rucksack until you start to feel a bit unbalanced. As it was, I felt pretty safe on this journey. I managed to get up to a little bit north of 50 miles an hour on some of these faster roads, and the little NMAX handled it beautifully, but I do feel more comfortable when I'm able to sit a little bit further back in the seat, as you can imagine. So as we zip along here, on the left hand side of the road, that's Wadsworth Moor, and on the right hand side, that's Oxenhope Moor. So we're pretty high up. I believe the highest point on this road is about 432 metres, looking at the OS map. Thankfully it's a completely still day on my way out. On the return journey, it does actually get quite windy. Thankfully, only really sort of on the Oxenhope side, and the winds kind of died down by the time I got up high. But there were some quite nasty, quite strong gusts that kept threatening to blow me into the opposite lane, especially with my bike really loaded up with camping gear and acting as a bit more of a sail. So if you ever plan to come up here on two wheels, it's definitely worth checking to see what the strength of the wind gusts are. So there's the sign, we've officially entered into Oxenhope. So gradually now, it's a little bit clearer from my perspective sat on the bike than it is from where the camera is on my GoPro chest mount. But you can really start to see the horizon opening up, and absolutely beautiful views on towards Oxenhope and Haworth and Keighley in the very far distance. So now on the downward stretch of this road towards Oxenhope, it starts to get quite twisty and turny. Some of the corners are actually quite sharp. Just because the bike is so laden, and because I'm not quite in the sort of seating position I ideally would be, take these probably a little bit on the slow side, but you know, it's what feels safe, and I have the road all to myself for the most part, so I can ride pretty much how I want to. Thankfully enough, it's a gentle enough gradient that I'm able to control the speed with the throttle pretty well, so Luna has decent enough engine braking. If you're obviously not familiar with driving a scooter, it's automatic, so you don't really have a control of what gear you're in because it's continuously variable. So if you drop below about 15-20 miles an hour, it's quite easy to just end up in neutral, and then you're basically having to drag the rear brake to control your speeds, which is not ideal, so it's wearing down the pads. So I like to be able to use engine braking as much as possible. And with those twisties out of the way, we are now pretty much in Oxenhope itself. Okay. It's just a village, so smattering of houses. I think this may be like a little co-op supermarket, but there's not that much here. So in a moment we will be taking a left turn, quite a sharp left turn, and then that will be taking us on the series of B roads that will lead us to Ponden Mill itself. So up until now we've had a pretty decent road surface. As you can see, it starts to get a little bit more bouncy along here. Nowhere is the road absolutely awful, but it's definitely a little bit rougher. I'm not going to lie, I'm mildly annoyed by the cyclist here who's in the middle of the road. I mean, granted, he's doing 30 plus, which is, hats off to him. I wouldn't feel safe doing 30 plus on a bicycle downhill, but it is a little bit frustrating because it means it's not really possible to overtake him. And then we get to this narrow stretch where the road runs along the top of this reservoir, where it's just not possible. I think he does glance over his shoulder once or twice, so I think he knows I'm behind him, but basically end up stuck behind him until I can overtake a little bit further ahead. And here we are at the destination, so thank you for following me along on this little ride. If you fancy a nice cheap little camping getaway, you want to be near Haworth, I would definitely recommend Ponden Mill. Probably wouldn't want to stay there for more than maybe one night because the facilities are a little bit on the basic side, but it is an absolutely stunning location, and camping down by the river was really special.